Involved in a story of what would happen if Superman really got involved in the real problems of the world.
Welcome to this special show of Celebrate Life. My name is Gary Carolis, and I'm your host. Before we get into the show, though, I want to just recognize the fact that this is part of a telethon that's been going on since 6 o'clock last night. In order to raise funds to preserve and keep the amazing archives that CCTV has accumulated over the last 41 years. If you're so inclined to help support us, you can go to telethon.cctv.org, or you can see on the screen there's a phone number to call, and or you can send a check in to CCTV. They're at 294 North Winooski Avenue, Burlington, Vermont, 05401. Having been a part of these archives and various little snippets of film over the years, I can tell you they're a treasure trove of information about this great city, and county, and state, for that matter. And so the thought of losing them because of the loss of federal funds would just be a terrible loss for this great city. So it is a worthy investment. If you can do that, it is very much appreciated. Also, there is a donor that has offered a substantial amount of money on a match situation. So your dollar will actually become $2 up to $10,000. So it is a great time to step up and do something for a wonderful treasure in our community life, CCTV. With that, if you're new to this show, Celebrate Life is all about interviewing people to celebrate their lives while they're very much alive and well. I thought of this program years ago when I was reading obituaries and saying to myself, gosh, I wish I had gotten to know that person when they were alive. Well, this show is dedicated to meeting people who are very much alive. I'm a firm believer that everyone has a story to tell, and all lives are worth celebrating. So if you know someone that might be interested in being a guest on the show, or if you're interested in being a guest on the show, you can write me at celebratelife0747@gmail.com, and I'll be glad to put you on the schedule. We're starting to book 2026 already. Well, I'm very honored today to have a very special guest, and it happens to be my wife, Barbara Benton. Hi, Barbara.
Hello.
Good to have you here. So we're here to celebrate your life. And where would you like to begin? Where does the story begin about this great life?
Gosh, what a big question. Well, I think the story might begin is that I didn't want to be on the show for 5 years.
Okay.
And then, I don't know, watching these shows that you've done, and I thought, I just started to think, why not? And what an amazing thing this is. So, and it's and my experience now has been that it's been a wonderful chance to reflect on my life, and I appreciate that. So
oh, good.
That's a good place to
That's
start.
a good place to start, yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, I suppose, you know, starting with the fact that I was raised in a military family. My dad was in the Air Force, and so we moved a lot. I really didn't know my extended family very well at all. Just to get a feeling of that, I was born in Idaho, went to Illinois, went to England, went to Tennessee, went to Kansas, went to England, and moved to Texas when I was 12.
Wow. So what impact did that have on you as a little person?
Yeah, that's how long do we have?
We have a good hour.
Yeah, so, you know, there were pros and cons. Definitely pros and cons. you know, the cons, one of them I mentioned is that I didn't know my extended family. You know, I have a first cousin that I never even met, right? I reconnected with some relatives later in life, which was really nice. But I met them only a few times when we would be passing through en route from one place to another, right?
Yep.
And so, you know, I think that was hard. You know, my family wasn't a family that, you know, like talked about feelings and things. So I didn't have aunts or uncles to, you know, connect with. And, I had a couple of teachers that were really instrumental in my sort of becoming a more conscious human being, more in touch with myself, you know.
Did those teachers mean more to you because you were moving so often?
Maybe, I don't know. I don't have anything to compare it to, so I'm not sure. You know, the upside of moving is that I was always the new person someplace, and some of those, actually only one of those was a military school where everybody was coming and going all the time. That was in England. But, you know, in the other schools, most of those kids were going to be in that school forever, you know, for their whole school lives. And I was the new kid, you know, so it made me, I think, more adaptable. But it also gave me an appreciation of what it's like to be new and to not know anybody. And to not, I feel like crying. You know, and I think in many ways that's really shaped my life, is that feeling of wanting to give people what was given to me by some and not by others, right? But that I wanted, you know.
So you had a better sense of yourself because you were, I mean, the only common denominator was yourself in all these different places, you know, and then...
I guess I got to triangulate. I got to see myself in a lot of different situations, from a lot of different perspectives, right? I remember when I learned that word triangulation in physics in high school, I just loved it. I glommed onto it. And I think maybe you've hit on the reason why.
So you went to England as a part of all this moving twice.
Yeah.
And well, that must have been something special. I mean, a whole different country, different culture.
The first time I was like 3 to 5, and we lived in an English village called Wood Walton. And it was a very small place, had friends there, ran around, you know, climbed trees, my favorite thing to do in the world, climb trees. Not so much anymore, but, you know, became a part of the community there. Of course, we left, but the second time was really a remarkable experience for me, because it just so happens that one of my teachers, a couple different teachers, I was there for half of 5th grade. I got there, and I come into school the first day, and we are studying The Merchant of Venice, because we were going to go to Stratford-on-Avon to see the Royal Shakespearean Theatre Company perform The Merchant of Venice. As a 10-year-old, I'm, you know, like, oh, this is different, you know. I came from Kansas. This is different. So my time in England was rich with cultural experiences, both, you know, theater. We saw the Nutcracker Suite, the Royal Ballet Company, you know, performing the Nutcracker Suite, but mostly historical sites, and just amazing things, from Stonehenge, when you could walk among the stones, and there weren't very many people there, to the London Museum of Natural history, the Museum of History, the Tower of London, the Crown Jewels, the Windsor Castle, the Roman ruins at Bath. It just goes on and on.
This is all part of your school?
And it was all field trips for school.
Wow.
And it was amazing. It opened my eyes to the fact that there was a world beyond me.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning, I think, of partly that triangulation, maybe, you know, that experience of I'm not the center of the universe here. You know, look at here's the Elgin marbles, and here's the mummies, the cat mummies. Wow, I had to go look at those a lot. You know, like, look what, you know, people that would mummify cats. Wow, when they die, you know, like, wow. King Tut's sarcophagus, you know, just like the whole thing. It was amazing. It was an experience that I don't think very many American children have of seeing the broader world and the historical context also.
Right. You know, there's a book called Common Fire that I've read over the years, and one of the things they talk about in terms of what they tried to do is, what about certain people that they go out and make the world a better place to live for others, different from other folks. And one of the common things that they all experienced was what they called an out-of-tribe experience. They've gone somewhere as a family vacation or an experience like you had that opens them up to something beyond their community that they grew up in. And you had that experience big time.
Yeah. I have a photograph that I took, well, many photographs that I took, but there was a 93-foot blue whale model and a skeleton of one also, but, you know, like hanging overhead. Wow, talk about perspective, and, you know, also a picture of my best friend next to the Rosetta Stone, you know, which was, of course, the key to you know, translation of ancient languages. So, so amazing, so amazing. I feel so fortunate. And I think the rest of my life, in some ways, you know, has been continuing to sort of broaden the scope, and that it's not about my experience as it is about our experience.
That's wonderful. So that's the positive side of all that moving.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So anyhow, so what's this little girl who's going through life here? Did you have any early life mentors that you had, or people that you looked up to?
Not really, I don't think. You know, when we were in Kansas, we were there because my dad was in Turkey for 18 months. So we went and we lived near where my mother grew up, on a farm in northeastern Kansas. And, you know, the freedom of running around on the farm, my grandparents were still alive, so I got to spend some time with them, although, again, not a family that was very touchy-feely in any good way, you know, but caring, you know, caring, and running around on the farm, and you know, little snippets maybe of conversations with my grandparents, and you know, it was beautiful, and to have a sense, you know, my mother grew up during the Dust Bowl. She was about 10.
Wow.
9 or 10 when the Dust Bowl happened. Northeastern Kansas was not as bad as some parts, you know, the panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas, for example, but and western Kansas, I think. But you know, things, you know, I think that deprivation, you know, shaped her in many ways to become just very stoic and not very, you know, demonstrative, right? So, you know, I can, it helps me to understand that, and it's an amazing thing. Years later, decades, 50 years later, I don't know, visiting and going to the cemetery there was the first time ever was in a cemetery where I had relatives.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
You know? And and the wind-swept plains, just an amazing, you know, experience. You know, when we moved to Texas, my dad, I think when I was 16, I think about maybe the whole year I was 16, he was in Vietnam as well. So since I don't remember a single dinner without him, and I know we ate dinner together every night, it tells me that it made an impact and I wasn't really aware of it at the time. But fortunately, he was in the Air Force. He, as far as I know, did not have any, I shouldn't say any, he did not have some of the terrible experiences that I've, you know, come to understand that many people did in Vietnam.
Right. Right.
But that was, I think that was very hard, you know, to have him gone. And then so he came back and he got out of the military at that point. I think he was back for a year or something, and then they were going to send him to Cambodia, I think, and he was like, no.
He's had enough. Huh?
Yeah, had enough. He had been in for 28 years. So
wow.
He got out and he worked for the Postal Service. And then he was diagnosed with lung cancer a couple of years later. He died when I was 19, I think. 20, maybe 20, I forget. And at that point, I didn't know what to do with myself. I truly didn't. And he was sick for a year and a half, so there was this long period of back and forth to college and skipping classes, and you know, that was just, you know, like I was done with school, you know, when he died. So I joined the military. Well, you know, you don't know what to do. Join the Air Force, right? So I chose.
What year is this?
I joined in 75.
Okay.
1975. So I was always kind of a, you know, climb the trees and run around, you know, so, and I was a ardent feminist from a young age. And so I decided that I would become a jet aircraft mechanic. And so I did.
All right.
I worked on F-4s and F-111s, mostly on F-4s. I was stationed in Korea for a year, South Korea, and
were there many women in the Air Force at that time?
Certainly not on the flight line. Not very many.
Yeah.
One or two, maybe.
Yeah.
I was the only crew chief there. Which was my job title, crew chief. So that was really interesting.
Yeah. You know, I was just reflecting a little bit, thinking of all the different places you lived in because of your dad's career. It exposed you to a tremendous amount of different people. I mean, just all those classes and all new. Yeah.
Of course, I learned to talk in England the first time when we came home. Nobody could understand me.
Because you had a British accent?
Yes, I had a British accent and a bit of a Yorkshire accent. So nobody could understand me. But that faded. But I do have this funny way that I imitate accents. And you've heard me years ago when my aunt was alive in Kansas, my mother's brother's wife, and I had reconnected with her, and I would talk with her on the phone, and I would sound just like her, which is a very, almost, it's Kansas, but it's Southern and kind of drawl.
Yes.
It was,
Yes, give us a little British accent here.
Oh my goodness, I wouldn't know what to say.
Perfect.
I have great fun using accents with my granddaughter, of course, as you know, who just turned 7, who is the light of my life.
Yes, absolutely. So what was this crew chief experience like for you? Barbara? Korea and...
What was it like?
Yeah.
Well, it was empowering in a lot of ways. You know, I was out there, I was, you know, a crew chief's job is to do pre and post-flight inspections and, you know, change tires and run engines and pull panels for specialists to come. We also uploaded guns, and I helped with all kinds of stuff like that. So, so it was empowering, you know, and to feel like I was serving my country and I was following in my father's footsteps. Yeah. Even though, as a kid, I was largely unaware of anything that he did in the military, right? But it was I was. Well, and I also, during that time, started having a lot of back pain, and so discovered eventually that I have a congenital defect that caused my spine to kind of start to slide off of itself at L5-S1, you know, so. And so that's not good. So I have been dealing with that my whole life. I'm a big fan of physical therapy. And I am also a big fan of staying strong. Yes. And of, you know, working out, and I do strength training, and I walk and I hike. I'm a big hiker.
I mean, you are a very big hiker. Talk a little bit about some of your accomplishments hiking.
Oh my, well, I had a job as a hiking guide actually after I came to Vermont. So I was a hiking guide. We stayed at, you know, country inns and did day hikes during the day, usually a week long or it was a weekend trip. And so I would hike, you know, 500 miles a season or so. And then I got to lead hikes in Arizona, which was in the Tucson area, which was really cool, and then did some extra hiking, you know, when I was there. So I got familiar with the Southwest I wouldn't have otherwise. So after about 32 years of hiking in the White Mountains, I finally finished all of them.
Wow, yes.
And
so this is all of the 4,000 footers in the White Mountains?
Yeah.
Which is how many? How many is that?
Oh, I keep forgetting, 46 maybe.
46, okay.
And then my friend and I decided, well, a big hiking thing before that was that my friend and I took our sons on backpacking trips and hiking trips, and that was the very best thing I think I ever did, besides read aloud every night until he was 17. Not every night.
Many nights.
After about 12, it was not every night. But so we did that 11 years ago. My friend and I and a couple of other women went to the Alps, and we hiked the Tour de Mont Blanc, which is about 110 miles, 114 miles in a loop. Starts in France, Italy, Switzerland, back to France. 2 years ago, we did 65 miles in the Dolomites in northern Italy, hut to hut. That was amazing. We right now are planning in a month, we are leaving, as you know, to go to the Alps again, and we are going to hike we're going to hike 125 miles from Chamonix, France to Zermatt, Switzerland. So that's basically Mont Blanc, which is the highest point of the Alps, to the Matterhorn.
Wow.
And, you know, going over ridges and into valleys, you know, so not at the heights of the peaks, but it's going to be amazing. And it's taken a year in planning. It's a very labor-intensive thing to plan.
And what has all that hiking that you love to do, what has it meant to you? What part of your life has hiking meant to you?
Oh, that probably opens the door to a lot of other things here. Yeah. Well, let me go back, and I'll get to that. Okay, I'll go back to, you know, after my dad died, I was in the military. After I got out of the military, my husband at the time and I decided to live off the grid. So we ended up living 14 years off the grid, 4 years in New Hampshire and then 10 years in Cabot. So my son, James, was raised pretty much off the grid.
Wow.
And nowadays off the grid means you have everything, you just do it differently. And back then it meant you didn't have it, right? You know, so we did have solar lights. We had 4 solar panels.
Okay.
And a couple of other things, but so we were in nature a lot, growing food. That's when I started doing the hiking guide job. I became a New York State guide, a Maine guide, licensed guide. You know, so my college degree, I studied biochemistry for 3 years, and then my dad died. When I got out of the Air Force, I went back to school, and I only needed less than a year of credits, and so I graduated from UNH, University of New Hampshire, with a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Conservation with an emphasis, not a minor, but an emphasis, they called it, in biochemistry because I had enough biochemistry credits.
Right.
So I had this science background,
Yeah.
and I also did field research. I was a research assistant to a wildlife biologist, and so we did a lot of time out in the field, and I learned birds and plants and trees, and it was amazing. I loved it, and it was the further riff on the theme of climbing trees when I was little.
Yeah.
My favorite thing to do, and so just becoming more familiar and living off the grid, you're more immersed in the outdoors, and then in with hiking, it was pretty amazing when I eventually went to graduate school to get a degree. When I was 40, I went to graduate school to get a degree in counseling psychology, and I've been a therapist for the last almost 30 years. One morning before a weekend class, I had camped out down there, and I hiked Mount Monadnock, and I had to be in class at 9 o'clock in Keene, New Hampshire. So I don't know what time I got up. I drove to Mount Monadnock. I basically ran up the mountain. I got to the top. It had been foggy. I got to the top, and I broke it just as I kind of came to the rocky summit. There had been a fog the whole time when I was going up, but I broke out into the sun. And then as I was going up and around to get to the rocky dome peak, I could tell that there was fog all around, maybe about 20 feet down, which was kind of odd, unusual anyway. I got up and I stood on the rock and I looked, and there was my full-length shadow projected onto the cloud layer.
Wow.
With a circular rainbow around me.
You? Oh my God.
And it was kind of like a jolt of lightning to like,
Did I die and go to heaven?
What happened? This is a miracle.
Wow.
This is some kind of thing that I don't understand.
Wow.
And that's kind of an example of the feeling of being above tree line, though, which is larger than life, which is you're so small, you're such a tiny dot, which contributed to my, I think my interest in Buddhism eventually. So nature, Buddhism, philosophy, psychology. It's all kind of wrapped up in some kind of spirituality that's not easily defined, but is very meaningful to me. And so yeah.
A deep appreciation for a lot of different little things in life that mean so much, whether it's a plant or a tree or a little bug. You're really tuned into all that,
Yeah.
when you're crunching those feet up the mountain and down the mountain and around the mountain. It's a total experience, a total immersion, it sounds like.
It's really funny. I saw a little wildflower the other day when I was out on a hike with a friend, and it's called cow wheat, W-H-E-A-T, cow
wheat.
It is one of the most inconsequential wildflowers that one could imagine, and I hadn't seen it in 30 years. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. I love to share my love of the natural world with other people. One time I was hiking a long time ago. I used to study the guidebooks because I was just fascinated, and I wanted to know what was out there, and I wanted to call these plants by name. I wanted to, like, they're like old friends. You know your friends' names, right? You know. So this is with a hiking group. Actually, we were with it. So I was with this group at some pond up in the Northeast Kingdom somewhere, and everybody started looking at this little plant, and I looked at it. I had never seen it before in my life. It was a very distinctive plant, and I said, grass of Parnassus. That's the name of it. It was grass of Parnassus. I had never seen it before, and I have never seen it since.
Wow.
But
you knew.
I knew what it was because it's got a very distinctive one leaf that clasps the stem halfway up the flower stalk. And I forget at this point what the flower looks like, but I just knew it. And that level of connection with the natural world, those instances, the rainbow, the cow wheat, the grass of Parnassus, you know, really stay with me.
Yes. It's your soul. Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, it's interesting. So when we were in Kansas, unfortunately, I had the experience of being sexually abused by my mother's sister's husband. And in the world of sexual abuse, it was pretty minor, but yet it impacted me very negatively. And it sort of dominated my thoughts for years and years. And really, you know, I didn't always make some great decisions, right? But eventually it was the thing that took me to counseling, to therapy, as a client, right? And it was after my mother died. So my mother died then when I was 31. She had breast cancer and died. Something about that, I think, freed me up to sort of like look more deeply, you know, and so I started going to therapy probably when I was 32, maybe, and that was really an amazing experience for me, coming from a family that didn't talk about feelings. You know, like feelings, I didn't know what they were. I didn't know I was anxious. You know, like I had no idea. But I learned a lot about myself, and it was such an amazing and transformative experience for me that's why I decided to go to graduate school to become a therapist. And it has really been, it was the best thing I ever could have done. I am still practicing a little bit, but just an amazing, you know, it's work that speaks to my heart, that has, you know, deep connections. It's a kind of a one-way connection in therapy, but yet, you know, therapists still invest a lot in that relationship and care a lot about our clients. And I have learned so much from my clients that has been also an amazing experience. When I went to graduate school, my very first class about being a therapist, the professor taught us to meditate. We started meditating. I've been meditating ever since. It led me to Buddhism. It led me to the intersection of Buddhism and psychology and somatic experience, you know, what you're feeling in your body and how that goes into the whole picture, you know, which I was completely unaware of, you know, for so long. And have come to see how valuable that is. So
Yeah, so
it was
well, it's, you know, all that focus on the small, the little things in nature that mean so much, then turned to you. You brought it in. You focused on the small things within you that really are drivers to who you are. That same process that you use with plants and trees and and little insects.
I suppose,
Yeah. Huh.
I forgot to mention my whole artistic side. I started playing guitar and singing way back when I was in the Air Force, actually, and I've had periods of time when I haven't played, but I love to sing. Really, the only reason I played guitar was to accompany so I could sing, and that's an amazing experience there. I also I got fascinated with the idea of art therapy, and so I started doing a bunch of scribble drawings and a lot of oil pastels over the years for my own personal growth and insight, and I even did an oil painting, which I'm very proud of, my one and only oil painting, and which is of the Southwest.
Oh yes, that's in the house,
and it came. It was I used a photo that I took when my good friend and I, the one that we backpacked and traveled with our sons a lot, when we went out west for 2 weeks and we hiked and camped all around the Four Corners area, and we went to. Of course, I cannot remember the name of it right now. One of those ruins, and took a picture of a cliff dwelling, and so
you painted that.
Yeah, so I painted that. And that reminds me. So the amazing thing about taking our sons on hiking and camping trips was that. I was able to share something that was deeply meaningful to me with my son, and he grew up in Cabot and running around, and one time he was sitting in a tree and a deer walked underneath.
Oh my goodness.
Like just lots of very cool things. And but when he was 21, he was diagnosed with MS, multiple sclerosis. And so at that point, I was working as a therapist, but I really needed a lot of emotional energy to, he was 21. It wasn't my thing to manage, so it was deeply upsetting to me. But I look back, it was absolutely a part of my spiritual journey, though, is to learn to accept reality. It just was what it was. It is what it is. He's 46 now. He's doing pretty well, fortunately, But, I gave him that experience when he could do it, which was amazing. But yeah, so I was working as a therapist, and then this job became available at the University of Vermont in the risk management department, and so I did a little diversion for 13 years at UVM, and I did have a small private practice the whole time. But my primary work, my full-time work, was doing laboratory chemical safety.
Wow! So
you can see that harkens back to my biochemistry background, my science background. I spend my time reading medical articles right now. There's all kinds of scientific articles, and very interested in the psychology of safety. What motivates people to be safe. So the job opening was to help participate in and create eventually a lab safety program. And at the time there were 550 labs at UVM, so you don't necessarily know that from looking at the outside 550. Of some of the buildings. But yeah, so it was a lot. And using my psychology training and background then, along with my scientific background, to help create a program that was sort of a little more user-friendly. You know, you can't just say the regulations say you have to do this. People kind of laugh at you when you turn around and go away. Or they do what they think they need to do out of expediency, or, you know, so what I brought was trying to bring an awareness to people that their actions impact others. And, you know, how they store their chemicals impacts others. If there's an accident, you know, how they dispose of their chemicals, how they use their chemicals is impacting other people. And so I'm very proud of my work at UVM. Eventually, I ended up creating a chemical safety program for the custodians, which were a very diverse group of people at the time. I think they were from about 18 different countries. Some of them did not speak English at all. And so it was a real challenge to create a training program, but I became aware that there was, you know, a need for a focus on that for their own cleaning chemicals too, you know, and not that there hadn't been, but you know, I felt that there were ways that I could improve on that. So that was really amazing.
Didn't you do something very special though at UVM with New Americans?
I mean, that was the custodial group,
right.
Yeah, and I tried to, in any way that I could to help them, not only to be safer, but to develop their careers and mentor as I could, help them write a resume that, you know, translated their skills that they had. Many of them were very skilled and educated people, right? Or you know, and had jobs back in their home countries that you know, they didn't know how to write that up in English for a resume. So I helped do that for several people, and that was really rewarding. You know, somewhere in there, I got a random email, and it asked if I wanted to, I still don't know where this email came from, if I wanted to host a student from Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I think that would be a good idea. and so Shafi came to live with me and my family at the time, you know, so for 10 months he was there. And so it was about the third day he was there. He arrived, as it turns out, like just one day after he turned 16.
From Afghanistan.
From Afghanistan. He's from Kabul, and he had been in Texas at a sort of a training program. So this was a scholarship from the U.S. government that was created after 9/11 to bring Muslim youth to the United States. And I believe this was the first year that students from Afghanistan were being considered. So he was chosen, I think they chose about 50 kids to come to the U.S. out of about 5,000 applicants.
Wow.
It was really, you know, very competitive. And the family had to agree that this would be okay as well, which was a very brave thing for the family to trust that their children would be taken care of when there are so many negative things said about Americans by, you know, very different groups of people over there, right everywhere. But so he came. So and about 3 days later, he said to me, "Tomorrow's Ramadan." And I said, "Oh, okay, right. I've heard of Ramadan." And he's still looking at me, and I said, "What does that mean?" and he said, "Well," he says, "it means I can't eat or drink anything, any water at all, even during daylight hours. So I have to get up really early and eat breakfast." I was like, "Okay." And he says, "Don't worry, you don't have to get up with me. I'll just get up. It's fine." And I said, "No, it's not fine. I'm going to get up with you." That single choice of mine I would never have guessed that a 16-year-old would be that talkative once you actually wake him up and get him up at 3:30 a.m. would be that talkative about his life in Afghanistan and his dreams and his parents and his uncle's wedding and his siblings. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. So I became. I just think he is a stellar human being. He still is a stellar human being. I went to his citizenship ceremony in 2023.
Yeah.
He still lives in the U.S., so that was really amazing. And that, you know, I still consider him a part of our family. Of course, you do too.
Absolutely.
Because he's
Yeah.
an amazing person, and
Yeah.
I'm proud to know him. And I'm proud to, you know, hear about the kind of person his father was. Unfortunately, his father died at the beginning of COVID, of COVID,
Right.
tragically. But, you know, it puts me in mind of how people are not so different.
Mm-hmm.
People are not different, which is just another level of learning for me, you know, piled on top of all these other learnings that I had about
Right.
people.
Yep.
And
And you're still helping people from Afghanistan.
yes, I recently became a volunteer for the Vermont Afghan Alliance, and I'm a family friend to a couple and a single woman, and they all helped the U.S. When we were there, and since. So it's amazingly rewarding to you know, to now be able to welcome people in a way that I wanted to be welcomed. That I, you know, like to have that real feeling of I'm in a new place and I don't know a thing.
Right.
You know, and
Right.
to be a companion on that journey.
Right.
It's amazing. So I'm very grateful for that experience.
So this, in a sense, all cycles back to that little girl who's over in England in this class, and new kid in school.
Always the new kid, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just amazing. You know, I've made it my life's purpose to go deeper.
Mm-hmm.
And I say seek meaning, and maybe that's not exactly the right thing. To make my life worthwhile for something other than just myself and my own comfort, you know, I tried to instill, you know, values into James, my son. You know, the most wonderful thing he ever said to me was a few years ago. He's 46 now. You know, a few years ago he said, "Mom, I never saw you treat anybody differently for the way they looked," or you know. And I was like, wow, that's really wonderful feedback. I'm glad you saw that, you know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, trying to live a life that makes the world a better place. I'm very concerned about, you know, I've been reading articles about, you know, empathy's like an old-fashioned thing now. I think it's all about empathy. I think I just read a quote by somebody, you know, the first most important thing in the world is kindness, the second most important thing in the world is kindness, and the third most important thing in the world is kindness. And I try to live my life that way. It's interesting, when I left UVM in 2013, and I went back into full-time private practice, and then I was also for 5 years I was the senior clinical administrator for this large practice as well. So using my administrative and organizational skills in the psychology world now, but I had time to attend a ministerial training program, and I became an interfaith minister at All Souls Interfaith in Shelburne. And I've been very active there these last 12 years or so. I lead meditation service. I've led various discussion groups. Right now I have a discussion group called Big Talk, and which is the opposite of inconsequential small talk. Because I value having deeper conversations. I value talking about things that really matter. You know, how do we maintain empathy in a world that seems to want to split into either or all the time, and everybody's mad, and hanging on to their end of the spectrum, you know, which starts to wrap around and look very similar with all that hatred of the other, right? How do you stay in this middle place? And you know, if any of my clients ever watch this, you know, they're going to laugh, because I'm always talking about, is there a middle ground there?
And how do you stay in that middle ground?
How do you stay in that middle ground? Yeah, it's the work of a lifetime. But it is worthy work, and it helps, you know, me to feel like, you know, just modeling that as best I can with my granddaughter too, right? You know, she sees that, and that means the world to me, to be able to, you know, pass on kindness. I guess it's kindness, you know, like you know, like, do I assume the worst about this person based on this one thing? Or do I not, you know? Instead of going to either or, do I consider that maybe there's some things true here, maybe some things true here, or good, you know? And maybe there's a way to find a middle ground. I've made that my life's work. Yeah.
It shows. So we're getting towards the end of the interview. Are there guiding pieces of wisdom or books that you've read or things that you've done that really shape you in a way that stand out for you that you want to share with the audience?
Lately, I have been thinking about a quote that is attributed to various people, and I'm not sure actually who said it, but that the opposite of a great truth is also a great truth. The opposite of a great truth is also a great truth.
Yes. Interesting.
Yes. So, an example of that. So if it's a something, you know, like gravity's gonna work. You know, like that's a scientific thing that we can demonstrate, and so the opposite is not true. But a great truth is different. So that might be something more along the lines of, I use this in my psychology practice a lot. You know, it's not a good idea to pay too much attention to what other people think of us, right? So don't pay attention. Don't pay too much attention. But on the other hand, we need to pay attention to what other people think of us, so that we can learn and model pro-social behavior, you know? And also, you know, like if you're the only one dancing on the table, maybe you want to look around and see that that's not the thing to be doing right now. But I think about that a lot lately. That's been a sort of a mantra that I go back to, and it helps me to remember to not go to either or, and to stay in that place. So that gives me, and that is an avenue that kindness is wrapped up in there somehow. Right?
Yeah. So, any other piece of wisdom that you want to share with?
Piece of wisdom. You know, movement of the body.
Oh, well, yeah.
Movement of the body. You know, it's easy to become fossilized in a lot of ways in life. So we can become mentally fossilized in a way, not a term I've ever used, but you know, our bodies need movement. Our minds need stimulation and movement. And so, I see what happens when I don't move. My back hurts worse, and things are not good. I feel incredibly empowered when I go to my gym and I deadlift 80 pounds and I do 40 push-ups, and I will say the last 20 aren't that great, but from the toes.
But that
it's so when I finish that, I have no pain. I feel happy. I feel accomplished. I feel like I'm really showing up in my body and in the world. It's an amazing thing, and it is within our control.
Yeah.
And so I love that. And even though I'm not enthused every time when I'm getting ready to go to the gym, I am really happy.
And that's
how I feel afterwards.
That keeps you going.
Yeah.
And then do you get the same feeling when you finish a book that you've liked?
Oh my gosh, books. This has been a whole I love to read. I love to read. I just read 2 Kristen Hanna books. She wrote The Women about Vietnam. My dad was in Vietnam for a year. It really was eye-opening to me as someone who was a young teenager when Vietnam was going on. I was kind of unaware. That was so helpful. I ended up writing about my dad's experience in pilot training school, where another airplane knocked his airplane out of the sky, and he went down with the plane. And so I've been writing, actually, too, these books that inspire me. Then I read another Kristen Hanna book. I thought, well, that one was so good. I read The Four Winds, which was about the Dust Bowl. And then it was about how the migrants, the climate migrants, were treated when they went to California, which was abhorrent, and I had no idea. So I am very moved by the things that I read, and I have been writing, and that is a huge creative outlet for me. Right. That I'm so excited to be doing, because I feel like it's a way to share my innermost thoughts and feelings with somebody who might read it later.
Right.
Like maybe my son, maybe my granddaughter might read those things later, right? So that's been incredibly uplifting for me also, and that's a kind of a movement as well, right?
It is, right.
Yeah.
And circling back to the hiking, you not only climbed all the White Mountains of 4,000 feet or above,
right.
You did New England, right?
That's right, I forgot. Yes. Then my friend and I decided to do all of them in New England, which was 19 more, I think. So we would go to Maine and camp, and we'd do a couple over there, and then and of course we had done the ones in Vermont, but we went to Maine. So they're all in Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Right. So yeah, that was very cool. We're actually working on the Adirondacks right now.
Okay.
I don't know why we left the hardest ones.
Stay tuned.
The hardest ones for last. But it's been joyful to me to be outdoors, above tree line.
Great.
Kind of similar to climbing trees as a kid, I think.
I think so.
Getting up and getting a view.
Yeah, I think so.
Getting a view.
Well, it's been joyful having you on the show, my dear.
I am glad that I agreed. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
One of the main actions of the story is that in response to a letter-writing campaign from students all across the country about the breakdown in U.S.-Soviet relations,